Those are speakers. The cameras are there. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Shabbat Shalom to those of you at home. And here we are, starting the Torah over again with the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. There's a well-known commentary on the book of Bereshit that says that depending on how you read the Hebrew, whether it's Bereshit or Bareshit, in the beginning or in beginning, it changes the meaning. And I'd like to suggest that even though this is not the very beginning of the world right now, it is a beginning. It's a kind of beginning, and we could use a new beginning, couldn't we? Mm-hmm. So here we are in a season of beginning, and who knows what it will hold for us. But what it holds right now is Shabbat. It's wonderful to be together and to bring light into our community on this Shabbat. It's my pleasure to invite up Rita Semmel and her daughter. It's Jane, right? Elizabeth. I had your sister's name. Rita and Elizabeth to light candles. The words are on page 2 of our Siddur.
Anita and Elizabeth are coming to the candles, I just want to mention our beautiful musicians tonight, Carlos, Jerome, and Eric. We're so lucky to have them. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechadlik ner
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for lighting the candles and for all the light you bring into our community. Our service continues with the Lachadodi. It can be found on page 20, I believe.
Page 20. And we lost someone this week, a Chazan. Richard Kaplan, those of you who might know him, his home base was in the East Bay. He was a true visionary. By the way, Chazan, cantor in Hebrew, if you didn't know, means vision. So it's interesting, and he really lived up to it. He was a visionary, and one of the things that he did, and he had a great influence on us, and really he had a great influence on a lot of people. But he unearthed all these Jewish melodies from around the world that had been forgotten or lost. He was an ethnomusicologist before he became a cantor. So we'll do a couple of melodies of his tonight. This is a Moroccan Lechadodi. Lechadodi likrat kala, de Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, de Shabbat nekabela. Let's say that again. Lechadodi likrat kala. And we're on page 24 for Shalom Aleichem. This is another melody from Chazan Richard Kaplan. This melody comes from Salonika, Greece, and I learned that Salonika at one time had the largest population of Sephardic Jews in the world. And this melody, again, was from the Jewish community in Salonika. And it wasn't what he wrote. I took the melody, it was so beautiful, and I adapted it to Shalom Aleichem. So we'll try it.
Can I say one thing first?
Yeah.
I'm just remembering, so you and I took a walk the other day.
Yeah.
This is what cantors and rabbis do on their day off. We took a walk and we spent time playing with the Hebrew of Shalom Aleichem.
We did.
And I just really enjoyed that, and I wanted to let people know that we had this whole, half an hour of focusing on a few lines of Shalom Aleichem, so I want to bring that here too. We can tell you later what we nerded out about.
One thing we discussed, and we see it here, that the root for melech, king or ruler, is the same. It's not a chet, it's the same root for angel, malach, although there's an aleph in there, so. Anyway, it's interesting, ruler and angel, the connection. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Chasharet Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
There's a little reading from our Emanu-El scholar on the bottom of page 25 I'd like to read tonight. And so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you too yourself may be a messenger, perhaps even one whose errands extends over several lifetimes. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner. We continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu, please rise. join me at the top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
And we're on page 32. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Aken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shokveinu ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי כן חיינו באורך ימינו, באורך ימינו, ובכם נהגי יומם בלילה, ואחוותך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We are on page 36. Yahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue on page, sorry, my page numbers are a little off.
Page 40.
Page 40, thank you. Page 40 with the Micha Mocha, our song of crossing over. And we would love if you sing with us.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha bailim
continue now with our blessing for healing. If you are thinking of someone this Shabbat, we want to be with you in those thoughts. But I also want to invite you to think of yourself. There's a place in you that is in need of healing on this Shabbat. Perhaps you bring grief to this room tonight. Perhaps you bring just something that isn't quite whole inside you. So we send blessings to all those who aren't here in need, but also into ourselves.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Top of 43, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
On this Shabbat, we send blessings to Frank Friedman, Rusty Holden, Lauren Knickerbocker, Marla Fields, Janice Berman, Mary Meyer Ryan, Ed Portnoy, Zoya Yakubovich, Natalie Saltiel, Janet Haas, Art Pilch, Marilyn Brenner, Trey Graves, Judy Salmin, Irma Castillo, Tivona Bat Miriam, Carolyn Brown, Timothy Brown, and any others people would care to add tonight.
Trina Saltis.
Eloheinu v'Elohe avotenu v'imotenu, God of our ancestors, we ask for your blessings, for healing and strength for those who are ill, wisdom and strength for their caretakers, blessings on the hands and minds of their doctors. Together we say, Amen.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Oh, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Page 44. Vishamru.
Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי
rise and turn to page 46 for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'imachot, U'mevii Geula livnei bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo b'Yahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh Kol atah, Rav leHoshia. In the Jewish calendar it is now the winter. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim berofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidomelach, Melech meimit u'mechayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. I'm in the middle of page 62. Ihiu leratzon imrei Adonai, Tzuri v'goali, Yichiu leratzon, Imrei fi v'hegion, Libi lefanecha, Adonai, Tzuri v'goali, Tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer.
One of the most striking differences between the two stories of creation in the Torah, and yes, there are two if you didn't know, is the difference between the creation of human beings in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and particularly the story of how genders are created. In the first account of creation, God creates one being that is both male and female. The Torah reads, God said, "Let us make a human in our image, in our likeness," and God created the human in his image, male and female. Then in Genesis 2, we find what is perhaps the more well-known version of the story, in which the Torah describes first creating Adam and then later creating Eve from Adam's rib. When I was studying this portion for tonight, I was delighted to come across an essay from my teacher and friend, Rabbi Rachel Adler. Here's an excerpt from the conclusion of her essay. It's a little long, but I think you'll see why I want you to hear it. She writes, Genesis 1 is an account of the creation, whereas Genesis 2 is an account of the creation of patriarchy, a remarkably truthful account. The world brought about by Genesis 2:3 is one in which desire is no longer joyful, but oppressive. Even before the disobedience, that is the Eve eating the forbidden fruit, relations between man and woman and world are commodified and function-based. Adam is created to till and soil. Woman is created to help Adam. However lush, the garden is a workplace. Created things are good, not intrinsically as in Genesis 1, but because they are resources. The garden is described as prime real estate, rich in water and trees, and adjacent to lands rich in gold and gemstones. Everything is viewed extractively. Woman's desire for man ensures her subjugation and her anguish. Man's desire is not even mentioned. He is exhausted by the effort to pull from the ground what can be consumed before descending into the ground and being consumed by it. Adam and Eve are alienated from each other, from the earth, from their labors, from the rest of creation. The world of patriarchy cries out for mending. A mending world would commit itself to equality and power sharing, to working cooperatively in order to fill needs and solve problems. At one again with the rest of creation, perhaps we would even learn not to resent our own mortality so bitterly. With Adler's framing in mind, I'd like to look at the idea of different stories of the same creation from a more spiritual angle. In Western rational thought, this is of course impossible. Something extant can't have been created in more than one way. For many good reasons, we understand time and creation to be linear. One thing leads to the next. I could not have been born in both 1981 and 1957. It doesn't work. But the Torah is actually neither Western or rational, though the rabbinic tradition has many laudable attempts to try to make it so. But what if we understand ourselves to have more than one story of creation, each of us individually? If we adapt Rabbi Adler's paradigm, is there a story that you understand about how and why you exist that is integrated, peaceful, and not solely for the purpose of labor? And is there another story, a story in which you are here to produce, to provide, to exploit and be exploited? One of the founding leaders of American modern Orthodoxy, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik, also talks about the two different kinds of people that are presented in the creation myths of Torah, though from a different angle. For Soloveitchik, the human created in Genesis 1 is the human being who is on earth to subdue earth and master it, while the humans depicted in Genesis 2 are humans with their egos in check, living with humility and a sense of service. So what is the story that you tell yourself about why you are here? What is your creation story? For some, especially those with the economic privilege to consider such questions, the pandemic has been a time of asking this question. Perhaps you also saw the New York Times essay by Cassidy Rosenblum titled, "Work is a False Idol," that introduced me and many others to the recent movement among young Chinese professionals called lying flat. Just a couple sentences from the opening of that essay. In China this April, a 31-year-old former factory worker named Lu Haozhong drew the curtains and crawled into bed. Then he posted a picture of himself there to the Chinese website Baidu, along with a message, "Lying flat is justice. Lying flat is my sophistic movement," Mr. Lu wrote, tipping his hat to Diogenes the Cynic, the Greek philosopher who is said to have lived inside a barrel to criticize the excesses of Athenian aristocrats. From that article and a few more Google searches, I came to learn that this recent Chinese movement, which has earned itself the condemnation of state leaders, is a reaction to the work culture of 996 in China, that is working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, which also happens to be a rabbi's schedule, but I digress. In any case, young middle-class workers in China started a social media movement to resist what we might call Rabbi Adler's Genesis chapter 2 version of the human creation story, that we are created to labor and exploit. And we have our own American version of this brewing, what some are calling the Great Resignation. Many American workers want to keep the time at home that many, although certainly not all, got a taste of over the last year and a half. And in an economy that does not require it, are not willing to work 60 to 80 hours a week. Indeed, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 4 million Americans quit their jobs in July, and numbers surpassed that last April. This is not a sermon about quitting your job. If you go quit your job and it leads to problems, don't blame me. But as we read this Shabbat, the story of the creation of the world, I am suggesting to you that the Torah is asking you to consider why you are here. What are your creation stories? Who told them to you? What ones do you now tell yourself? We've been given the gift of living in this beautiful garden. So let's strive to understand ourselves as here for the good stuff, to be with friends, to bring love into the world, to help those who suffer, and yes, to do the work that's needed, but also sometimes to lie in the grass and appreciate the sky and trees. Let's see ourselves as created in unity. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to the Emanu, which is on, I don't have my CD in front of me. I'm really off with page numbers tonight. I think it's 287.
I think it's let's find it. I think it's 282. It's funny the things that you remember. Let's all, if you're able to, we'll all rise. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
In a moment, we'll join together on page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. First, I'd like to share this reading with you on page 288. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left is love, give me away. On this Shabbat, we observe the Shloshim of Eleanor Mazzi-Cohn, Sue Siegel, Miriam Rand, Estelle Reitblatt, Tim Van Landegheim, Barbara Mitchell, Roger Stone, Charlotte Levine, Marilyn Golden, Avram Katz, and John Davies. And we commemorate the yahrzeits of Tilly Abrams, Bessie Bear, Albert Belfer, Charlotte Montwood Bernard, Mimi Brandt, David Brody, Daniel Benjamin Buchler, Boris Chushoy, Keith Clark, Georgianne Conley, Herbert Crane, Liliet Schley-Dorfman, Jeremy Dossiter, Patricia E. Ehrman, Judith Etkin, Paul Mark Felton, Milton Sidney Fink, Benjamin Pincus Fireman, Helen Heller Fireman, Samuel Leon Fireman, Donald Fisher, Grace Frankel, Bernard Friedman, Jared Douglas Fuchs, Beverly Benenson Gassner, Jameson Goldner, Howard Gordon, Mira Greenstone, Olga Eisenberg Gross, Grace Hecht, Anita Taubie Hirsch, Marvin Iskoff, Lawrence Israel, Dorothy Kale, Phyllis Kind, Sarah Kukshuk, June Laxer, Michael Melnikov Eichenwald, Catherine Jane Rolf Metcalf, Leonard Myers, Ann Miller, Ida Moldau, Sophie Moncharsh, Susan Nissen, Ted Pincus, Rose P. Rinder, Ernest S. Rogers, Henry R. Rolfe, Louis Rosen, Leonard Rosenberg, Anne Rossi, Leon Bazaljet Russell, Beatrice Schimmel, Harry Shutinya, Alexander Silver, Paul Singer, Alan Snyder, Joseph Soloff, Horace de Souza, William Streifer, Harry Thames, Ria Toole, Olga Tsudkova, Albert Waldman, Mark Walker, Charlotte Kaufman-Weiss, Ellen Wise, Elliot Winograd, Susan Winograd, Barbara Wittenberg, Samuel Charles Wolfe, Charles Wood, and any others people in our congregation are remembering tonight. We rise together, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'ama divra chirate v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
And for Oseh Shalom tonight, let's turn back to page 62. I just want you to have different text here for this prayer. This is a beautiful melody written by Jerome on the piano. And usually at the end we say Ve'al Kol Yisrael. We're praying for peace and for all of Israel, Ve'imru Amen, and we all say Amen. And was added to this prayer book, it says Ve'al Kol Yisrael, you'll see it's the bottom prayer on the page. It says Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, which means and all who are literally sitting, but all who are dwelling on the planet. So it says that if we're not all at peace, we really can't have peace. And that's the message that I take from that. Say shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Say shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru imru amen. Say shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Say shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, if you're at home and you're watching us, if you have a glass to raise it up. In the sanctuary, I will raise it for all of us. I believe it's on page 3. No, not really. It's somewhere near here, Rabbi, if you find it for me.
I'm working on it.
Hmm?
The story with the page numbers tonight is that we have an outline
Here it
that
is.
has for the other books.
Page 5.
That's why we're
Page
doing
5.
Here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Look how he finds it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'b'ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'masei v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrei kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki vanu bacharta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
And I will raise this challah for all of us, and I hope the day comes soon when we can all share a little bite together.
Amen.
Baruch
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom,
Thank you so much for
everybody.
being here.
Shabbat shalom.